Now let's begin a look at our newspapers today. The daily is on Daybreak, and we'll start with the Daily Trust newspaper, and then here you'd see Nigerians to pay 7.5% VAT on Facebook adverts. You would find details of that on page 23. And then INEC dismisses report on 500 billion naira direct primaries budget, and details of that is also on page 45. And then the lead story says Katsina commissioner assassinated, 15 worshippers killed in Niger with the riders. Bandits attack Abuja homes, kidnap residents. Act now, Sultan Khan president warn. You'd see also troops killed 62 bandits in 2 weeks. That's according to the military. The pictorial there shows you President Muhammadu Buhari during the commissioning and induction of new Nigerian Navy ships, boats and helicopter at the Naval Dockyard, Victoria Island, Lagos yesterday. And then below that, tragedy as northbound travelers electrocuted in Lagos. You'd find that on page 3. And then Gumi dumps bandits, says, I can't risk my life again. BPE announces ex-TCN boss as AEDC interim MD. You'll also see New Dawn in Lafiaga as Emma Kau receives staff of office. Very interesting stories, and tragic at the same time. The one about the northbound travelers that were electrocuted in Lagos, raises concern about, how we have poles everywhere, and the way they are wired, and everything. It's really a danger, to us all as citizens. Well, these are the stories basically on the Daily Trust newspaper today.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. The lead story there, federal government begins giving booster shots. US donates 2.5 million doses. The writers, federal government records 1,072 COVID-19 cases in 10 days. Travel ban evidence-based, UK insists. You can't talk of booster jabs when some people haven't received any. That's according to the Africa Union Center. You'd find it on page 9 of the Punch newspaper. Obasanjo, faithless suitor, unblinking political philanderer. That's according to Akande. And on page 7, you see Sultan Khan carpet federal government for escalation of highway attacks, kidnappings. On page 20 of the Punch, you'd find capital inflow drops by 29% as COVID-19 cases rise. That's according to the CBN. Reps hope to pass 2022 appropriation bill on Wednesday. BPE names management team for Disco taken over by UBA. And you find on page 25, Ohaneze plans lobby team for Southeast 2023 presidency beat. On page 4, Ogun wanted serial killer arrested, meeting hoodlums, others flee. And on page 30 of the Punch newspaper, light rail, Ogun Assembly tackles Lagos over planned demolition of 1,000 buildings. These are some of the major stories on the Punch newspaper.
All right. On The Nation today, the stories say, Omicron, Sanwo-Olu steps down, peace work. You would find details of that on page 2. The Nation man wins Wole Soyinka Awards. You'd also find the next story there saying Ogun, Lagos on collision cause over light rail. Troops rescue 20 policemen abducted by terrorists. And then the lead story says Buhari, how Akande, Oshoba, others lost in 2003. You'd find also below the pictorial there, the second pictorial at the bottom says Sultan to Nigerians, stop blame game. unite against enemies. With the rider, Khan boss urges security agencies to learn from U.S. And then the story at the very bottom, crisis looms in Ondo PDP as Mimiko loyalists push for harmonization. You'd also find, let's take a look at the riders on the lead story there. It says, AD governors, victims of Obasanjo's political double cross. President Lawan Tinubu extol ex-APC chair at book launch. That's that for the Nation newspaper.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the stories on the Guardian newspaper this morning. The lead story there, save us from killers, bandits, Sultan Khan, JNI tell Buhari. And the riders, Nigerians are being killed like chickens. Bandits murdered 80 people in single night. Sokoto leaders write Buhari. You'd also see gunmen kill Katsina commissioner in residence. Bandits gunned down 15 worshippers inside mosque in Niger and imposed 10 million fine on Zamfara communities. You'd also see on the Guardian newspaper this morning, COVID-19 cases surge as Omicron spreads in Africa. And on page 4, federal government to fast-track $2.3 billion in Nigeria cement deal. And on page 28 of the Guardian newspaper, you'd find ACF urges Indigo to start lobbying for 2023 presidency. Still on page 20, you see Wike asks federal government to show evidence of money borrowed from creditors. So these are some of the major stories of the Guardian newspaper this morning.
All right, let's get perspectives on the stories that made the headlines. We have in the studio editor, 24th Century Chronicle, Nuruddin Abdullah, to review the papers this morning. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Morning, thank you.
Okay, let's begin, with the lead story on the Daily Trust newspaper. It states Katsina commissioner assassinated, 15 worshippers killed in Niger. Just yesterday, the news broke out, about the assassination of Dr. Rabi Nasser, and according to reports, he was killed in his living room and his corpse locked away, in a toilet. It seems like, assassination has become a thing for Nigeria.
Yes, unfortunately, the menace is taking a new dimension. You understand, Katsina is one of the states ravaged by banditry. Coincidentally, the murder took place almost the same day. The state is lifting the 3-month-old ban on mobile telephone services. So this further deepened the old narrative that apart from banditry, just like what we had in the Northeast, maybe in the last 12 years, political assassinations and so on do take place. But our investigating agencies don't do anything. They dismiss them as the handiwork of the insurgents. Now we have banditry. Some 19-20 months away to the general election. So we should be experiencing these things. And again, the police in particular, just dismiss it maybe as out of banditry or what have you. Just like what is happening in the Southeast. Murders are being committed almost any other day. But we dismiss them as committed by ungunned gunmen or non-gunmen. So it's taking a very horrible dimension, particularly in Katsina. People are being taken away while they're on the roads, or those who go to their farms or the villages. But now they are coming right into the cities, into the metropolitan cities across the north. VIPs have been taken out.
Now, if you look at the trends, and the things, the kind of reports that we are seeing, one wonders whether really we know what we're up against in terms of profiling and designating these criminals. We call them bandits. But we also have information, from states like Niger State that, look, these people we call bandits are actually not bandits. They are Boko Haram and ISWAP fighters, perpetrating these evil. So how important is it for us to really diagnose and know what exactly we're up against, as part of efforts to win the war?
So I don't know the mentality, particularly of those in charge of the security architecture. In Niger State, for instance, like you rightly mentioned, the governor said it not once, not twice, not thrice, that actually there are some parts of the swaths of land and villages in the state that are even paying taxes and levies to these people, Boko Haram. And when you remember, some of these bandits were even, they released their footages with RPGs, particularly in Niger. And you remember when the attack was carried out on the Abuja-Kaduna standard gauge rail, many newspapers and experts, particularly outside the government, believed that it was the handiwork of ISWA, who were experts in destroying public infrastructure. But the Railway Corporation, they dismiss it. So that is it. We are in a sort of, particularly those in charge of the security architecture, are in sort of a denial. They don't want to see that ISWA is around the corner, ISWA at the fringes of the Federal Capital Territory. The governor of Nasarawa State, some months ago, he went to the villa to see the president. And when he came out, he briefed the press. And what did he say? The security agencies in his state are telling him that Boko Haram, particularly the ISWAP elements, are converging on his state. 24 hours later, there was denial. The man was denying what he said on camera. So you understand, we want to reduce...
Exactly. But because, isn't it very important that we again, understand and profile them the way that they are, so that we do not carry the mentality that, oh, they are bandits, and so the effort, the kind of effort, and deployment that we put into the Northeast, for instance, knowing that we are dealing with insurgents, it's not the same for, bandits and all of that. So it looks like we have, is it a dilemma? It's not really a dilemma, but we just need to take the right approach, isn't it?
And the commissioner is the latest casualty for this, what I call targeted assassination. A retired Air Vice Marshal was gunned down in Kaduna last month, you remember? We just dismissed it, maybe by bandits. This is the general. He headed the medical corps of the Navy, of the Air Force. He was gunned down in Rigasa, Kaduna. And that is it. So the security agencies, you understand, without telling them what to do, we believe that they are well trained, they have their sources of intelligence, and what if you, but they should look at this narrative. They should look at the trend. Are they bandits? Bandits, the bandits we know, they take out people, they demand ransom, and that's it. But why outright killing? So my fear, like I said earlier, is all these assassinations will just be subsumed under the name of bandits. If it is in the Northwest, North Central, Boko Haram in the Northeast, and non-gunmen in the Southeast. Police don't do their work any longer. The commissioner was there yesterday, and what did he say? They already said that a suspect was arrested. Maybe a security guard in the house. And look at it. That of the AVM in Kaduna, no, we didn't hear anything.
So
since the man was gone down.
what approach, what kind of approach do we need, to curb, all of this security situation? Because everything, almost virtually everything have been talked about security right now.
Political will is important. Or am I saying that our security chiefs, not necessarily the service chiefs, must know their schedule? And when there is a laxity, somebody must be punished. That's it. Yeah, if for instance you are a commissioner of, not long ago, the bandits were on rampage. They attacked, blocked, abducted, in some instances killed travelers along the Kaduna-Abuja highway for 5 consecutive days. Kaduna has a commissioner of police. We have all the military commands. There is a GOC, Wandiv, the Air Force Base, and what have you. But the fact remains that nobody was even maybe queried. Why is this thing happening? But when people will sit up, when they realize that when there are such instances, their jobs may be at stake. We have to take that measure. And that has to do with the political will. You can't sit down yesterday and assassination is taking place. The only thing you will say is, okay, one suspect was arrested, and before you know it, that's it. No. If these things happen and they continue to happen, you'll be removed. When we start doing that, maybe.
Okay. Let's take a look at other stories here now. We have the story about Nigerians, going to start paying 7.5% VAT on Facebook adverts in the coming year by January. What's the implication of this, on people who have now, run their businesses on social media?
Generally, people will think that, the federal government is tightening the noose, but the federal government needs money for adverts. Good. Government has to get money. Not for salaries, for infrastructure, for funding all these military operations taking place. Southwest and southeast, north central, northwest, northeast. I think, like the IMF said, there are certain things that need to be taxed. I'll go outside the country and see. Go to the UK. They tax almost everything, maybe minus the EIU. So what we're saying here is this, okay, on the other hand, in Saudi Arabia, the VAT is 15%.
15%?
Yes. My friend was just telling me, he just returned for lesser Hajj before they banned the flights. You buy a recharge card of 100 riyals, you buy it at 115 riyals because the vendor will tell you there is a VAT. Understand? And by the time you load, 15% is deducted. So you buy it almost at a recharge card of 850 at 100.
Is that not double huge taxation?
The kingdom needs money.
Yeah, but they need money, but who is going to pay for it? I mean, if you look at the income of Nigerians, and you now begin to come up with such policies, it looks like Nigerians will have nothing left.
The issue is this, we rely solely on crude, which is very, very unreliable, you understand? So tax, most of the Western countries rely on tax. That's what they call taxpayers' money. Let's start paying 7.5% VAT on Facebook ads so that we can hold these people responsible. We will have to know what they are doing with the money. I think it's a good thing. I know there are certain things that will even stop doing.
And with the millions of Nigerians on Facebook, I'm sure there will be a lot of money for the federal government.
Sure. So therefore, in the NG, the civil society organizations, they should be on the lookout. We'll start counting by January 1st. We'll write Facebook.
Well,
okay, how much have you released to the federal government?
So is this like a kind of way to to make Nigerians sit up, because it looks like we're in a habit of not wanting to pay tax?
Sure. Look at it. I don't know now. If you go to your house now, maybe you have about 5 cars. This heavy duty, because you buy the fuel at a very cheap rate. You understand? Like one government official said, which I concur, you know, the kerosene, which is used by the people at the downtrodden, has been deregulated. Even diesel, which our trucks use to convey goods from one part of the country, has been deregulated. Only the fuel. I remember, let me cite you maybe a simple example. In this office, you know, people go for weekends. Abuja, Kano, Kaduna, what have you. See about 10 people, you know, everybody will just go and refoil and
yes.
But when the money, when this regime came and the price, you know, was hiked, you know, then they started thinking, okay, no, Haja, are you going to take a donation? Yes, I'm going, but 5 of us, let's use your car, or let's use my car.
So, you know, this seems to suggest Nigerians are spoiled in some way. You know, if you look at, you know, some of the subsidies that we enjoy. I mean, electricity subsidy, fuel subsidy, and all of them. Now that the government is realizing that, look, we have to stop paying all these things, Nigerians are also not having it funny, because some are saying, look, this is going to inflict more hardship, you know, than there is at the moment on Nigerians. So, because if you want to impose such tax, you have to also look at, you know, the sources of income for Nigerians, you know, and all of that. Isn't that a problem for us?
It's not a problem, per se. We'll adjust. Do you know why? Let's take the electricity sector, for instance. Before the introduction of meter to this cards, go out in the afternoon, you'll see almost every home up there is like, you know, the bulbs are on. You remember, people leave their air conditioners on, their water heaters on, even though if they are not at home, which is even pose some types of risk. But now, because you know you are buying cards now, I have an uncle, you know, he's always at loggerhead with his teenage.
Sure.
In fact, he was, the other time he was even threatening to disconnect the AC. Oh, the water heater. It's when you want to bath on the heater. But don't leave it on running for 24 hours.
Yeah, everybody is forced now to be careful.
That is it. So
to be diligent.
There are certain things that actually need to be taxed. Like the IMF said, you know, there are this sin tax. If you have more cars, you know, you pay more tax. If you have, there are certain things that we need the tax. And you know, it is only when Nigerians will wake up, will start holding government accountable if we are paying tax. You understand? You know, it's advert of visit Facebook. You know, it's recharge card. You know, if you go to it in any.
But I'm curious though about how this will be. You know, how does the federal government or the government intends to take this, you know, VAT, you know, from Facebook? Is it Facebook that is going to be paying to the federal government? Maybe in light of the recent saga, of the Twitter saga and everything, and maybe this is one of those changes that we are about to see.
Yes, you know, most of these things, because they are virtual, they are raking billions, but without remitting to the host countries. Nigeria is not the first to do it, but with the Twitter saga, you understand, they realize that, okay, there are so many things that can be done. There are multinationals, I know, that are forced, even the media, to register as Nigerian entities so that they pay tax. In those days, you remember, there are some foreign news agencies that are based here, but you know, they are operating dumb accounts. But they said no. So, you know, the government, with the paucity of funds, the government has put their thinking caps, you know, they are moving, looking around to see where they can raise money. So our only concern now, okay, when you raise, we'll pay this money. But be rest assured they will hold you accountable. We want to know how it is being spent. Not on salaries, not on going to London for treatment of cold or catarrh. You know, they are very angry that we have been, Nigerians flights are banned to UK and Canada. You understand? So, but we pay tax, then we hold the government accountable.
Right. Okay, let's take a look at, another story on the lead story on the Punch newspaper this morning. It states federal government begins giving booster shots as U.S. donates 2.5 million doses. But the African Union Center here is saying you can't talk of booster jabs when people haven't received, any of the previous, vaccines that we have. What are your thoughts about this?
So, the way this COVID-19 thing is transforming from one variant to the other, No, I don't want to align with what the AU is saying. Yes, less than 5% of Nigerians, adults, have been vaccinated. They got the 2 jabs, But even though the large population were yet to be inoculated, that does not mean that the 5% that got it should not be given the booster. Particularly bearing in mind, the mutational tendencies of the latest one, Omicron, right? We had the Delta, we have the Omicron. Again, when we rely on handouts, that is it, hope that the one they are giving here is not being expired. They donate vaccines with very short lifespan. And we have even problem of even in keeping the vaccine in the right condition. You remember some years back, Gavi, it was polio vaccines that were donated to us, but because of our Nigerian mentality, the vaccine were allowed to be expired at the ports. I remember Nigeria was fined 7 billion. Yeah, we have to pay that fine. And simply because of we don't even have the facility to accommodate it. You understand? So the issue is, up to now, we don't even have the money to even buy this vaccine directly. The bigger countries do. Most of it is what they get. And when something is being donated to you, you have very limited, whether it is a lot, if you want to buy, you can carry your money and go and buy. But so you have to, the AU should allow this booster to come into the country. The 5% that we have vaxxed already should be given the booster jabs, while efforts should be intensified in ensuring that the majority population that has to be vaxxed, are vaccinated.
But the government has persistently talked about we have the capacity, for storage, and all of that. Doesn't this contradict that statement?
If we have the capacity, for storage, as they say, where is the electricity? It is the same thing that happened with the polio vaccine, that the Gavi has to find Nigeria 7 billion, I remember in those days. And again, talking about even giving people, now there is a ban. If you are not vaccinated, you can access the federal ministries. Is it being implemented? No. What I thought the government will do is to create more centers for the vaccinated. If it is you want workers to be vaccinated, take this one to the federal ministries. Take it to markets. Take it to worshiping centers. Be Jumad mosques or churches and what have you. But when you say it has to be hospital, and all this confusion, the thing is donated, you allow it to be expired, and you start explanation out of it. So, we are the lowest ladder.
All right. Now, before we round up the review, quickly I want us to look at yet another tragic story from Lagos, talking about northern bound travelers, that were electrocuted in that state. It seemed like for the past few days it's been from one tragic story to another, all coming up from Lagos. We heard about the children that were rammed into by a truck, about 8 of them. This one, about 5 people died. So it's just been one sad story, after another. What exactly is going on in Lagos?
So maybe you even about 23 travelers going to Lagos were ambushed and killed in the most horrifying manner by bandits in Sokoto. Still, the travelers were going to Lagos. So many things are wrong. Look at the cases of that, the Dowen College, the Fafunwa Grammar School incident where a truck ran into. It's a systemic issue. Yeah, maybe the authorities need to look at, let's say, what actually happens in school, particularly the elite school. There are the mechanism for control are very limited because these private schools have been run as business and you don't want to anger your customers. That is one. And secondly, what happened at the Fafunwa Grammar School? It was actually a case of negligence. I am not an engineer, but I believe that every road, particularly in the cities, they have their speed limits. So why is it that a truck, an articulated truck for that matter, will be speeding?
Do they observe the speed limits?
So it seems that the metropolitan authorities need to wake up from their slumber.
And from what we also heard is that the driver was trying to escape from, officials, of the VIO, for violating traffic.
Lasma in Lagos, Karota in Kano, Castelia in Kaduna. Yes, these agencies have been put in place to bring sanity. But apparently, the operatives, is it from Lasma? Is it from Karota in Kano, from Castelia in Kaduna? Their sanity need to be re-examined. Most of them are poorly educated. So, a road safety official or Clasma official, a VIO, will call accident just trying to impose penalty. Maybe the guy was on phone or he didn't put on a seat belt, and he will drag with him. And what if it happened in Kaduna not long ago? It's a recording dismal in Kano. It's a recording with Lasma. What that means, these officials, yes, they are doing a laudable job, but please, there should be sort of a level of education for those operatives, and there should be another thing, rule of engagement.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. We would have to end the discussion here today. Thank you for joining us on the program, and we look forward to having you again another time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right.